The following is a special presentation of the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Welcome to Tough Enough, a recap and breakdown show from the MMA Outsiders, following every episode of The Ultimate Fighter Season 32. Team Grasso versus Team Shevchenko, presented by Playback. And now, here are your hosts, Tom Albano and Zain Bando.
For the final time this year, we welcome you to Tough Enough. That's Zain Bando. I'm Tom Albano. Zan, the TUF Finales are over. We have our Ultimate Fighters. Now all our attention turns towards the coaches fight.
Yeah, again, and first off, thank you again for tuning into another edition of Tough Enough. It's my co-host Tom Albano just alluded to. It is the last one of the year. When we say that we've greatly enjoyed doing this, it is absolutely an understatement. This is the most fun I've had on a side project in the podcasting space in quite some time. To be able to follow this season with you has been a real pleasure, and I'm excited to wrap it up today, man. Absolutely.
I know. I'm sad, but excited as well. So before we do, hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified of everything here at the Empty the Bench Network. Make sure to follow us across social media at MMA Outsiders ETB and the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network. Make sure to subscribe to us here on YouTube, youtube.com/ETB Network. We're just past 860 subscribers, so help us continue our climb to 1,000. We thank you so very much for all of your support. Don't forget to listen to, obviously, this is just a spin-off show with the live stream feature, so this obviously does not go out to all our audio platforms, but make sure to listen to our main show, the MMA Outsiders, wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Acast, Apple Podcasts, so much more. And then, of course, I would be remiss if I did not mention that the MMA Outsiders and everything here. Actually, let me go into the correct folder here with Tough Enough. Yeah, Tough Enough, the Ultimate Fighter Team Grasso versus Team Shevchenko Aftermath is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together, with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. All right, Zan, let's just quickly go through and talk about some of the things that have happened this past weekend. Obviously, we had UFC Vegas 96. The main event was Cannonier Barrio. Barrio was the big story there, but the tough fights themselves had a couple of big highlights to them. They ended in emphatic fashion. Myron Santos is your featherweight winner. Probably one of the best knockouts. I mean, my God. So Myron Santos getting the better of Offley in terms of the striking in the first round, and then he landed a hook, San, and Offley he face planted. It was a brutal, spectacular finish for Santos, and my hat off to him. After all that we saw with that last episode last week, Zan, the weightness and all the stuff with he was going to fight Zig, and then all of a sudden it turned into Guillermo Torres, his teammate. It was unbelievable, and I give all the credit in the world for Myron. He came in as one of the most experienced featherweights, one of the best skilled featherweights. He showed it this season.
Yeah, he showed it this season for sure. And to be fully transparent, as I told you off the air, my internet dropped in the middle of the first round, so I actually did not see the end of the first round. Thankfully, it came back in time for the second round, where I was able to see the finish. So that was awesome. And just to see a guy win like that, who was obviously at a very emotional journey, was super humble on the show. That's a guy who said that they had that's a guy who said that he did everything he could to make it to where he is today, and just to see his girlfriend have her full support, like the whole thing just could not have been any cooler, and he just looked absolutely awesome. And would just see him say with the biggest smile on my face, I'm gonna become, a world champion one day, just like Michael Bisping was super cool. So
Yeah, definitely was cool. You mentioned had his wife there. It was a really awesome moment for
yeah,
Myron.
true. Yeah.
It was a really awesome moment for Myron. A complete, like I said, it was the complete picture. He is the complete picture of all those 8 guys over at featherweight, and he did a terrific job here. But I think the other stories, Dan, one of the biggest upsets that I have seen in TUF Finale history, Ryan Loder actually pinning Robert Valentine's arms down and managing to finish him in the way that he did after Valentine had in Dana White's own words, one of the most dominant runs through the first 2 rounds of TUF. Unbelievable. And Zen, you talked about the story of Ryan Loder, the fact that he was told in school, his teacher said, that he basically didn't seem like he was going to make it in life of anything, that he was stupid and too stupid for life. And then he turns to wrestling.
I guess I wonder how that teacher feels from
I know
of seeing him fulfill all of his glory that he'd ever dreamed of.
And here's Ryan Loder, who basically finishes Tom Theocaris, one of the, let's say, weaker when it comes to fight records fighters, and easily stops him. Then has a tough challenge at the semifinals, ends up pulling that off and having to go to distance, and then has this beast in Robert Valentine in front of him. And we talked about Valentine being one of the main characters of the show, Zan, with how brutal of power he has and everything that he accomplished on that show. And Ryan Loder pulls off, like I said, one of the biggest upsets in show history, in my opinion. And it's fantastic.
For sure. And once I saw that he was going to get the finish, I'm like, oh my goodness, he's going to do it.
My jaw was on the floor. Like, it was incredible. Robert, I know Robert had a little bit of trouble when he was facing Patty, but I thought Robert had the strength that even if the fight went to the ground, that Robert would be able to. I mean, we saw Robert Zan, for crying out loud, pull off an inside armbar against Patty. Like, you thought that maybe he was the complete package.
Stuff you never see. And this isn't to discredit Valentine, because I know he'll be back, but could you maybe potentially make the argument that he just thought that the fight was going to be easy? Because you never know.
Maybe, but I think Valentine will get back. Like I've said on the show, Zan, I think he's still going to get a contract somehow, whether he has to go through Contender Series next season or he gets a last-minute call to fill in on short notice. But I think he'll be back. It's not the end for him. But Ryan Loder, I am so happy for.
I think so too. And what's even cooler about it, though, is just to hear the intimacy, and people rip on the Apex all the time, but just to hear the intimacy of the important people that were meant to be there when this happened was the coolest part.
Absolutely. All right. Now that the show's wrapping up, Zan, what were some of your favorite moments of this season? Your favorite fighters? How do you feel about this season? Because I think this goes to something, Zan, in our little group chats and everything that happened with the BS last week with Asshole. I know people are like, well, why do you care so much about this tough season? One, if you actually watch this season, and maybe there's no coaches chirping at one another, that little entertainment that people love with the McGregor and Chandler of last season.
But the fights were actually great. They were great.
The fights were great. The fighters were a likable cast. Grasso and Shevchenko did a hell of a job as coaches. Shevchenko, maybe the water stuff aside, it was phenomenal, man. Like, I enjoyed this tough season, and this tough season was more worth it to me than last year's because, hey, where's McGregor Chandler? We still haven't gotten it yet.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
I stand by the take, Stan. I stand by the take I had at the end of last season. Last season, TUF 31 was an absolute waste of time.
I agree. And apologize to the loyal viewers of the show. It showed in our lack of care in production to make sure that last year's version of the show was good. As you could tell, we beefed it up a little bit more this year to take ourselves a little bit more seriously. But you know that if we didn't care about the show, then the show didn't care about the show.
And the fact that we have so many people, Zan, that tune into this show, whether it be on social media or on the YouTube channel, that shows us, how much there are people out here who care about TUF or just think that we can fill in the hole, of you guys not watching TUF. And I say we appreciate that.
We do. To answer your original question, some of my favorite moments of TUF 32, I would say the coaches challenge was fun. To try to get Kelsey Plum to have Grasso and Shevchenko compete was funny. That was good.
Yeah. And the weird aftermath of that, with the coach saying "No, I'm done. I don't want to do it."
That one I still don't fully understand.
Neither do I.
I'm sure you don't fully understand it either.
No.
If either of us have a chance to interview any of them, that would be one of the questions that I would have, because everybody was confused. Or at least the people who watched the show, I would think, were confused. Another great moment that I had was obviously the fight on the quarterfinal portion, the back and forth war featuring Zig was phenomenal. That was probably the best fight of the whole season. And I'm sure you'd agree with that.
Zig and Beck.
Yep. That's one of the best fights in TUF history, period, in my opinion.
I know that was pure violence. It was so fun.
I'd see Zig versus Beck was probably my favorite, and then I guess just one more highlight before
Valentine's 15-second knockout of Giannis.
Yeah, that's up there. I would also say too, the first episode. I mean, the excitement of all of those guys to see that they were being coached by Valentina and Alexa and how awestruck they were. That was pretty cool.
And that's the other thing, and this is another one of my favorite moments, because you got to see genuine appreciation those two guys had for their coaches. Because sometimes those fighters may not appreciate their coaches, or the other way around. I think back to season 3 when Ken Shamrock stand, all he did was make his team watch tapes of his fights.
Right.
Some of the coaches don't really give that much of care. But Grasso and Shevchenko took their role seriously. They had the coaching staff. They had little tiffs and stuff, but it was fun. And everybody did a really phenomenal job with this.
It was fun, number one. And number two, if I were to rate this season on a scale from 1 to 10, I would honestly give it a 9. The only thing that this season didn't have was more, and I know this is a stupid reason, but I'm just going to say it. This season did not have enough of an in-person Dana White presence, and I miss the older seasons when Dana White would physically be there from the first episode of The Ultimate Fighter. Obviously, the sport has become bigger now to where he can't be at everything anymore, but having Dana give his traditional speeches,
it gives a different feel.
That's what I think.
That show intro speech, which he did this season, but obviously he never followed up with anything else. But it's sometimes those speeches that make, hey, the "Do you want to be a fighter" speech,
and
that is played to this day.
And even crazier for him not to be there for the coaches fight face-off in episode 12 was very surprising, in my opinion. They must have recorded that on a busy UFC weekend or something, because to me that was extremely surprising.
For sure. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Like, I do wish a little bit more of a Dana presence, and I do think sometimes, as much as I crapped on people for, that when you have two coaches with a little bit of intensity, it does get a little more fun. But I'm not going to fully take away from this season. This season was still great, in my opinion.
Oh, and I'm still going to say 9 also, because one of the finale fights got leaked, so that's what bumps it down from a 10 to a 9 for me.
Yeah, well, when you deal with some assholes in this media space, that's what tends to happen.
And unfortunately, I'm just very grateful that neither you or I committed that. So,
but I am thankful to all of you who watched, and I am thankful to those fighters who did interact with us on social media too with this.
Yes, shout out to Ryan Loader, Myron Santos, and Robert Valentine. You guys are class acts. That's for sure.
Absolutely. All right, very quickly, Zan. Last couple minutes here. We'll have a bigger preview when it's time for UFC 306 preview on the flagship show, the MMA Outsiders. But Grasso Shevchenko 3, They faced off at the end. We know about the circumstances surrounding their fight, their controversial fight 1 year ago. Does the belt go back to Valentina, or does Grasso prove that why she is the champion?
Yeah, I think the flyweight title goes back to Bulgaria, and I think Valentina Shevchenko shows why she's the best flyweight in the world. I think she had some things go the wrong way late in the second fight, and I'm sure she wants the first fight back, and I'm sure she probably feels like she was screwed in the second one, and she knows that if she can catch Alexa with something, that Alexa's going to get knocked out.
So, Zan, I am actually going to be in complete agreement with you. I do think Valentina wins the belt back. I think last fight, typical draw, although some might say that Valentina should have gotten the nod in that fight. But I think Valentina is going to take what she had for the first two fights, everything that she's worked for and everything that she's trained for over the last few months, considering the tough season taping and through it. And I think she's going to, showcase again why she is the top women's flyweight fighter in the world.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. And do you think that Valentina stops Alexa, or do you think it goes to the judges again?
I think it goes to the judges. I think Alexa has shown she can take it for 5 rounds with Valentina.
I mean, given how closely intertwined these two are, do you think we're going to see a fourth fight down on the line? Because Grasso is going to have to stay in the mix if she loses, right?
Yeah, but I don't want to see it for. I want a different flyweight title fight. We need the division to move on, whichever way it ends.
I agree. I'm going to be bold and say that this is going to be the greatest UFC women's flyweight fight in the history of the promotion. What do you think?
I hope so. It would be a cherry on top of this tough season if these two manage to have a Whaley Joanna moment.
I think it could happen, considering that the sphere is the backdrop. Anything is possible. So, and that's one that I think a lot of people are excited about, just considering it's Mexican Independence Day, and you can't have Mexican Independence Day without so in one of the two headlining spots. So it's good to see. So the only thing that could make No J UFC 2 better is if Brandon Moreno was on the card too, but that's either here nor there. So,
all right, and just quickly want to make mention, as the time where we're recording this, we just found out that Benji Radek, the former UFC, Strikeforce, and Bellator fighter, has passed away. So, want to just give a little shout out and tribute to him, for being one of the. I mean, Zan, he debuted at UFC 37. He was 10-0. He actually had just fought Shannon Rich. That was a no contest. The Steve Berger fight when he made his UFC debut. He's fought Nick Serra, Sean Shirk. So, I mean, he was one of the, obviously he wasn't one of the originals going back to the 90s, but as the UFC was starting to, make its little grass in the world, he was a part of it. And then went over to IFL and Strikeforce.
Yeah, he was an OG pioneer, one of the most underrated fighters to do it. And, as I like to say, when people unfortunately pass away, he lived the most fulfilling life he could, and given what a positive presence he had in the MMA community, never seemed to be in any trouble. Even stopped a robbery from happening over a decade ago or so. I think he will be sorely missed. That's what I think. So, and at the time that we're recording this, he unfortunately passed away at the age of 45. So very, very, let's just say this: life is way too short. So enjoy every minute that you possibly can. So,
absolutely. All right, hit that like button. Make sure to follow us at MMA Outsiders ETB at ETB Network. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. And shout out, as always, to our friends over at Playback. And shout out to all of you. Thank you for following along with us for this season of TUF. It's been absolute blast. Zan, 2 seasons Tough Enough down. Hope to be back next season. It should be an absolute blast. Obviously, circumstances about what's going to happen with the Apex and everything, but, I had a hell of a time.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to be able to do this with you, man. And it looks like the Ultimate Fighter is going to be part of the UFC's portfolio, assuming for many more years to come. So I'm excited to hopefully continue to do it. And this is one of the best TUF seasons that I've seen in a long time. And to be able to do this with you was always a fulfilling part of my week. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of it, man. It was definitely fun.
Absolutely. So for Zain Bando, I'm Tom Albano. Thank you all again for this journey through Tough Enough. For the Ultimate Fighter Season 32, Team Grasso versus Team Shevchenko. Yeah, it's been an absolute blast. We'll see you down the road, and we'll see you next time on our flagship show, the MMA Outsiders. Until then, bye, everybody.
Take care, and we'll be counting down the days till September 14th because it should be an outstanding trilogy. Looking forward to it. So
absolutely, we'll see you. We'll see you around.
Have a good one.